So I decided to put together a video on pallet cutting, where to get your pallets, pallet selection, the tools that I use. I'll walk you through a few picture frames and stuff I'm going to do, and then later I'll make another part on sign making I do with the vinyl cutter. So let me get started on the saw choice. I got at Harbor Freight. It's one of our local hardware stores here in California. They had a parking lot sale. This was, I think, 60% off. So I got this hardwired Sawzall for 25 bucks. Didn't get a warranty. I figure if it goes bad, I'll just throw it in the trash and buy another one. Blades, and I'll mention this more and more. Blades are crucial. You want to get a good quality blade. Don't buy the blades at Harbor Freight. I didn't like them. They were really soft, and I'd maybe get a pallet of blade. Where these DeWalt blades, there's probably other good contractor grade, but these are DeWalt 12-inch bimetal blades, and these will cut through nails on a pallet like nothing. Just zip, zip, zip right up and down. I can probably get 5-6 pallets on a blade, so they are a little more expensive. I think you can get a 5-pack for 16-17 bucks, so what, $350 a piece, but they will save you a lot of time, a lot of wasted energy, and I can go through a pallet in probably 2 minutes. So, and I'll show you that later. Second thing with these blades, be careful, they get very hot. So if you find yourself cutting and you've already used it and you're going through a pallet and a half, and it starts to get dull and it's time to change it, don't grab the blade to take it out, because these things will get red hot. So what I do is, on mine, for example, you just twist this little thing and I kind of jiggle it and let the blade fall out and then put a new one in. But you'll get some burn marks on your finger because it gets very, very hot, especially if you've gone through a solid pallet and really had it running. So you want to make sure not. I've done that. So learn from my mistakes, hopefully. So that's what I use, 25 bucks, and I've gotten dozens and dozens of pallets out of this saw already, and it's still running like a champ. So I couldn't justify going out and spending, 200 bucks on a nice contractor grade saw when this works just fine. So save yourself the money on that and go with one of these. You can even get them online if they don't have a Harbor Freight near you, and they have them on sale all the time. Sign up for their email list, and they'll send you all the sales, and you can get them online. So keep that in mind. People have also asked me where I get my pallets. Whatever you do, don't steal pallets. Don't go to a Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, someplace like that in the middle of the night and grab pallets off their dock without asking. Most of the vendors have to leave a deposit on the pallets, so they'll get dinged for that. So a lot of people think, oh, they're sitting out there, they're free. It's not the case. So always ask. Just think of places that might get material in on pallets, but not necessarily use them. Glass, mirror shops, paper goods, any kind of maybe motors or heavy equipment that they might then build the motor and not use the pallet. But always ask. Just knock on the door, say, hey, I noticed you had some out there on your loading dock. I'm working on a project. Is there a chance I can grab them? And I've yet to be denied. They appreciate you asking versus taking, so that goes a long way. And then they might say, oh yeah, no, I've got a few more in here. So and you might make a little relationship with the person. Yeah, we get them in a couple of weeks, and then you can constantly keep the flow going if you work on a lot of projects. So that's good. Just please don't steal. Second is pallet selection. On this, learn from my mistakes. I used to go to places and guys say, yeah, go ahead and take a couple. And I just grab everything that was sitting there and get them home and realize there's, 10 deck boards on there, yet 5 are cracked and 3 are really warped. So now I did all that work and got a couple. So take it take a minute and kind of look through the pallet and make sure it's, you know, in pretty good shape so you'll get the material out of it. It's kind of frustrating when you get, you know, 3 or 4 pallets, come home and cut it all up, do all the work, and then you realize you've got half the material. So I'm now a little more picky with my pallets. People will call me, hey, there's a couple back there, and I'll look, and they're junk, they're firewood, so I don't even bother. I kind of pick and choose now. So I've got a couple stashed on the side of the house here that are in real good shape. So again, that'll save you a lot of time. There's no sense in doing all the work and you don't get the material. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, so this is a fairly good pallet I've got. It's got one bad one on it, but it's in good shape. It's got, what, 11, 12 on there. So out of that pallet, I'll get 12 good deck boards. And then these are what I call the stingers, and I actually think that's the common term for them. I save a lot of these. These are usually in pretty bad shape because of the forklifts. This one's got a pretty good crack in here. But if I can find some good ones of this, I use them for table ends, and I'll show you an example of a table I did where I used them. They also work good for legs on a table, on a bench, because they're basically 2x4s, so they're really strong. That's what I refer to, the stinger and the deck board. With the deck boards, you'll probably see a lot of junk on here like this black stuff, and you know, just different things. Don't worry about that if you see a pallet. This pallet, for example, is almost brand new, but this black stuff here will all sand out, and you'll have this piece looking like that. So don't worry about it if it's got black, and you know, there'll be some little dings in there, but I just sand the edges out real good. This piece isn't too bad at all right here. I'll probably use that for something. If you decide to use these stingers, again, I'll talk about sanding, but make sure I sand everything really, really well. Tops, bottoms, sides, ends, everything. I don't want to get a splinter. I've gotten them, they're not a good time. These stingers, if you do find one that's pretty good, just make sure and really sand it good, especially in these grooves here, because this stuff gets all chewed up from the forklifts. So keep that in mind. Again, sanding is key. I'll show you what I use for a sander here in a bit. Normally, I'll probably cut a pallet here for the demonstration, but normally I don't cut them back here. I usually do them in the garage or the driveway, but there was a bunch of stuff out there. So you want to make sure, because when you cut these, and I'll show you, when you cut these deck boards off, you'll have a little piece of nail head left in every one of these. Sometimes they have a tendency to fall out. So you want to make sure that you do it in an open area where you can see if there's one that fell out, because you don't want to, you know, a pet and a child, an adult stepping on one. They'll go right through a flip-flop. And again, I don't know, I'm just doing this in flip-flops, but I'll put shoes and stuff on. So you want to make sure and keep an eye on all these nails. Don't want a flat tire. Okay, when I talk about cutting it, and I'll show you in a minute here, I'm going to go down with the saw blade between the deck board and the stinger, right down that little gap that's there. I'll just put the saw blade in and zip right down, zip down the middle, and go to the other side and do the other side, and they'll start to drop off. If you ever find yourself doing it, it does happen once in a while, more in the middle, but if you ever find and you're cutting and you start to see smoke, that means you're cutting into the wood, either side. But sometimes the saw blade will get a little crooked and you'll be cutting into the wood and it'll start smoking. And you'll smell burnt wood. Just go ahead and back it out and find another angle. It does happen once in a while, especially on some of the real tight ones. This pallet's got a pretty good gap, but some you'll see are really nailed in, and I mean there is no gap at all to get the saw in without cutting into the wood. So usually what I'll do is I'll get a hammer and I'll just kind of gently tap on the back just to make myself a little gap right there. You don't want to pry it up with the claw end of a hammer or a crowbar, because you'll just split this stuff to trash. So sometimes, this one will be fine, but I just kind of gently tap on there and it just enough, just a little bit of a gap, and go ahead and saw it up. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this up. I'll speed up the video so you're not bored with the whole cut. I always wear shoes, I always wear glasses. I don't always wear gloves, but I'm going to try these out because there's some splinters in this. So I'll go ahead and cut this up and show you how quick we get through it. And that's it. So I got 3 good stingers, a bunch of good deck board. These are the nail heads I was telling you about. I don't know if you can see that, but they do pop out. That'll flatten the tire, hurt a foot, so keep an eye on those. Like I said, I normally don't do it back here, but I had a bunch of stuff in the garage, so there's another nail head. So always keep an eye on those, always wear shoes. And that's it. That cut probably took me 3 minutes, 4 minutes, so that's it. Work's done. Very minimal cleanup. Piece of cake. So that's what's left over. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, basically 11 deck boards and 3 stingers. And that's the cleanup. Hardly any mess. Dustpan can pick that right up. I've got the one bad piece up there that I showed you. I'll pop those nails out and chop it up for firewood. So that's it. Took me about 3 minutes of labor and no cleanup, and we're good to go. Also, when you are going to cut up your scrap for firewood, the trash can, whatever, always be careful with what I call dead nails. So these are the nails where we sheared off the deck boards, but there's pieces that go down inside of here. So when you do cut this up for fire scrap, just because there's usually nails on both sides, so be careful that you always find a clean line to cut through with your saw. My saw will go through them, but I certainly don't want to do that, so always find a clean line. I've had some that have been so polluted with dead nails being reused over and over, I've had to just throw them away. I couldn't even find a clean line, so very seldom, but usually you can always find a line somewhere, so keep that in mind. These deck boards, this was the bad one. I'll pop these nails out, throw them in the trash. And usually on a deck board, you don't have nails between nail sets. So this is usually always clean. So but still be aware of that. Also, when you do burn this stuff for firewood, be careful. Here in California, it's illegal to burn pallets in most areas, especially the desert, because what's going to happen is the nails are going to be left over. And if you're out in the desert, ATVs, motorcycles, they're going to run over them, cars, get a flat tire because of something you did. So I have a fire pit that catches them all, and then I just, after they cool, obviously, I dump them properly in a bag and take them home and throw them in the trash. So just keep that in mind when you do burn this stuff and there's dead nails in there. The nails will survive the fire, so that's all you'll have left. So keep that in mind so you don't go, giving somebody a flat tire. Okay, so I use a DeWalt orbital sander. You can get orbital sanders, electric sanders, just about everywhere. Harbor Freight, again, you can try that. I'm using a P60 pad, which is real rough, real coarse. I put mine on with spray adhesive. I don't like the Velcro stuff, it tends to fall off. Keep in mind when you are sanding pallets, sometimes these nail heads will chew up your pads a little quicker than normal, especially on the bottom side because they're sharp. So usually if I got one that's hanging out long, I might pound it out all together, sand it, and poke it back in. But I wanted to show you how that black stuff I was talking about, not to really worry about it. I won't do the whole piece, bore you with all that, but I'll just sand this little section and kind of show you how it comes out new, and you can get any kind of marks or any kind of gunk out of it, and it works out really well. And that's that. So all that black gunk that was on there comes right off. Make it smooth. I didn't do all the whole thing, but just to show you, it does come off, and that'll stain up really nice. You'll get some nice natural marks from the wood in there. When I'm sanding, I always use a mask just so you don't breathe that dust in. I've done a piece or two without it, but if I'm doing anything big, I always make sure to wear one because you'll start coughing up sawdust. So, that's probably not good for you. So that's how I sand. Won't bore you with any of that, like I said. So that's it.